institutions, private industries, etc., in many cases as organizations, and in some other cases as social organisms. Those are going to be kind of the same kind of thing, right? But when we're talking about a social organism, we're talking about a unit. Even though our company has different kind of departments, different kind of areas with people doing different kind of functions, actually we're talking about one single piece, an actual social organism. This is why it's so important for the organizations to have someone who understands management, right? Because the manager actually is an expert in terms of coordinating tangible and intangible resources to produce something valuable in a productive, effective, and efficient way for the market. That is going to be your job, right? Understanding reality by getting information that is useful for you in relation to coordinate those tangible and intangible resources. I'm just giving you a summary about what was the most important subjects of the first class. Remember, tangible and intangible resources and how we can use it to create the conditions for a social organism or organization to produce something in a productive, efficient, and effective way, right? I just want to know if you remember these two important measurements. 303, microcomputer applications in 303. It's going to be over there. Yeah, no worries. We're switching classes because the other one was very, very small for us. Well, that's the whole story. Okay, so I don't know if you remember what was the two quantitative indicators that we need to take into consideration for us to know is, sorry, if we, as managers, are making the right decisions. As you maybe know, this decision-making process will lead you to a specific result, right? And these results has to be measurable. So we objectively know that we are actually doing our job, right? What were these two quantitative indicators? We're going to compare what? Output divided by the input, right? And the output, we are considering the total units we produce, and in the input, what kind of resources we need to use, right? And also it's very important for us to take into consideration that the nature of every input, for instance, building, capital, facilities, equipment, machinery, raw materials, etc., right? Basically, we're talking about different kind of units. If we want to know about how we can add up all of these kind of resources for my organization, we're going to be using the total cost, because all of those things, at least at the beginning, will represent a cost for my organization. So we need to be in the position of making the right decisions so our results can come in the most efficient and effective way, right? So as managers, you will have access to these tangible and intangible resources, and you need to make decisions about how you can create something productive for the market. What will be the most important things, or at least the basic or fundamental functions of management through which you're going to be able to use your resources in the most effective way? What would be the managerial functions that will help you to make the right decisions about how you can use your resources to produce something for the market in the best possible way? Most productive, most efficient, and most effective. Well, we're going to be starting talking about the 4 functions of management. This is Management 101. These are the most important fundamentals. The authors that come up with this idea of using these 4 functions of management as a way for the manager to be able to apply a given and proven method to maintain an organization functioning properly, they made a research process, a very sound research process, with thousands and thousands of managers and hundreds of organizations. So we're not talking about something that is easy to get, if you want, right? It's going to be something that is so important and essential for managers that even though these kind of ideas started in the 1900s, approximately in 1916 or so, right, are still useful and true at this day, right? But this is like the most fundamental things that the manager has to know, because through all of this kind of process and this kind of cycle of functions, we're going to make sure that our decisions are giving us the result that we are expecting in our organization, right? So this will be this cycle. The first one, we're going to be starting by planning, then organizing, then leading our team, and then controlling our results, right? We're going to be talking about this more profoundly in the next slides. But first of all, it is important for us to understand in these slides that we're talking about 4 fundamental functions. All of your decision-making process as managers will go through these 4 steps, right? All of the decisions, daily decisions, weekly decisions, monthly decisions, etc., right? And also, here we will find a way to try to create a condition for my company so we can keep in track how we're going to be using our resources. As we mentioned before, we need to take into consideration at least 2 measurements to know how well we are doing, input and output. But also we know that if we want to check if we are making effective decisions, we need to compare something. Remember what kind of measurements we need to compare for us to know if we are making effective decisions? When we want to know if we are productive, right? We compare our output with our input, right? When we want to know if we are efficient, we're going to be using the same kind of formula, right? But we pay attention about how much resources do I need to produce. The less the resources, maintaining the same level of output means that I'm becoming more efficient. Question about what I just said about efficiency. No, okay? But when we're trying to know whether or not my decisions contribute to increase the level of effectiveness of a given organization, what will be the 2 measurements we need? Yeah.
To compare the expected output with the actual output.
With the actual output, right? So effectiveness will come from the expected output as with in comparison with the actual output. So we can know whether or not we're making the right decisions in my organization in terms of effectiveness. We originally planned to produce 100 units of tables, right? At the end of the day, we produce effectively 100 units. Then we are effective. Maybe in the second day, one of the machines is broken. The equipment is not functioning. So we're not able to produce that much tables in that case, maybe 80 or 70. So we are not effective because we are not meeting the expected output. Questions about the expected and the actual output. Expected, what do you expect to produce, and actual, what are you actually producing. That's it, right? Why am I introducing the concept of effectiveness here? If you were in the position to identify where these measurements can be located in the 4 functions of management, where would you put it? If we're talking about planning, what do you want to do with the resources you have, right? Organizing, try to identify how you're going to produce something. For instance, how many departments, how many levels, how many management units, etc. In leading, motivating people towards a specific goal, and controlling, checking how well you are doing, right? These 4 functions of management are from common sense, if you want, but those are very powerful for you to make the decision. Microcomputer applications is 303. We changed it. We switched it classroom because of the size of the groups. Okay?
Microcomputer application.
Yeah, 303, please. Classroom 303. Okay, so we have here planning. What do we want to do? What do we want to achieve for the short, middle, long term? Organizing how we're going to be using our resources in a way that we can produce something. How many departments, how many functions, how many levels, right? The leading, motivating my people to work for my organization, and controlling, checking how well we are doing, right? If we were in the position of identifying the expected output compared to the actual output, where do you think you can place the expected output data or the expected output information? Planning, organizing, leading, or controlling? Planning, right? So first of all, we need to say, okay, we have that many resources, that many people, that many talents. So with all of this, we can produce that many units of output. 100 units, 1,000 units, 1 million units, etc. Right? And then we need to compare how well we are doing in the actual output, where we're going to be taking into consideration these units of measurements. In what functions of management? If here we're going to be defining the expected output, where we are going to be checking the actual output? In controlling, right? So we expect to produce something or a certain amount of units today. We coordinate our team, we motivate them to be part of the organization, and then we check these measurements against how we effectively are producing, right? 303. So you get the idea. This is not just four functions of management. This is a cycle, meaning today you will go through these four functions, as well as tomorrow, as well as the next week, as well as the next month. A cycle, always taking into consideration what you want to produce with what you have, right? This is for every manager in every level, but the level of understanding about how we can use it is also different. But we're going to be talking about this in the next slide, right? These concepts are related to the specific measurements we have to start. Productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness, all of them are essential for management, help us to check how well we are doing, are related to your functions as managers, right? And also, those are quantitative indicators. We don't need a story. We just need a number or a ratio, and that's it. Okay? Your decision process then will have a dramatic effect in the possibilities of this organization to be productive, efficient, and right? Now, this is just the introduction. Before we go to the next slide about these four functions of management, it is important for us to know that some of these kind of functions are going to be static, meaning you're going to be working on those kind of functions in your desk or in your computer before you actually are meeting your team, right? Two of them are going to be static and two of them are going to be dynamic, meaning taking decisions and interacting with your employees, with your suppliers, with your customers, etc. The first two, planning and organizing, are static. You're going to be using your conceptual skills to know what will be the right plan to use the resources you have, and also how you can coordinate a team in the most effective way. The other two, dynamic, leading and controlling, will be more active, right? Making decisions, having interaction with your employees, with your customers, with your suppliers, etc. So these two, static, planning and organizing, and these two, dynamic, leading and controlling. Okay? Questions about that? So far, so good? Okay, perfect. So let's go for the first stage, right? In planning, we need to define what kind of things we want to achieve in different periods of time, right? Not all of the goals that we have are going to be short term. Some of them are going to be daily goals. Some of them are going to be monthly goals or semester goals or yearly goals, right? But it's very important for us to have a clear vision about what we want to achieve in different periods of time. Okay? So first of all, we need to know exactly where our organization is going to be in the long term, so we can start planning from there, right? So the first thing we need to take into consideration is your vision for your company, right? For your organization, okay? This managerial function takes into account the vision, so you can have a clear idea about where you want to be. You want to be as an organization in the future, meaning in the long term, okay? This kind of statements must be a motivational statement. We want to create an organization that actually makes something good for a society or helps leading the environment or pursuing a valuable goal, right? So then again, we have the vision, which is a clear idea, right? That expresses and describes where you want to be as an organization, okay, for the future. And this has to be the long term. It has to be, as it says here, a futuristic approach. Why do you want to start an organization? Just to make money? That doesn't motivate people, right? You need to create something that is worth to work on, right? So this is why this is so important, Okay? And also this is why every major organization and corporation in the market, they have a clear vision. They want to create something good, doing something good for the environment, for the employees, etc. It depends on every organization. Actually, this could define the personality of your company. What do you want to achieve and how do you want to accomplish that specific goal? Okay? So we start from here. The vision of the organization is that in the future we want to become the leading company producing and selling solar panels because we want to help reduce the pollution in the environment or something like that, right? Help the communities doing something, okay? And you can see that clear statements in every organization, in every kind of company that is well designed. Starbucks, I don't know, all of these companies, Cinepolis or whatever, they all have a vision, right? This will lead the way. It's a guiding to lead the way, right? Now, we have these clear statements, and then need to define specifically what actions we need to take in order for my company to be able to achieve that specific clear idea of the future of the company. So from here, this motivating statement, we start in development the mission of the organization, right? That will be related to the set of activities specifically designed to achieve the vision. So in the mission of the organization, we're not going to be considering only the production process or the steps to find a good supplier, because this is not going to be linked to the production process. Actually, this has to be linked to the vision. We want to become the leader in the production and selling of solar panels, right? By doing these specific activities. Finding high quality materials, using high quality certification in my company, finding the top talent in my organization, and finding a right location in my company. That would be 4 activities useful for me to achieve the vision. Okay? The mission has to be linked to the vision of the organization. Again, here, activities, right? That you design to achieve the vision, not the production process. Okay? Questions about this? Yeah.
So the mission is usually the strategies to get there to your vision.
Well, we're going to be using strategy in a different way, but basically just put set of activities. Strategy is a core concept of principles of management. This is going to come in chapter number 6, but basically strategy is going to be more focused on creating commercial value for your customers. And that will give us a very broad subject, right? So just set of activities. Okay. Question about another question? So far, so good. What is the difference then about the mission, which is a set of activities, compared to productivity, which is also focused on turning an input into an output? Productivity refers to what?
How well you're doing.
How well you are doing in terms of comparing how much you are producing with, well, that is efficiency, but with the resources you have, right? Remember the formula for productivity: output divided by input, right? This is just a process for the organization, turning an input into an output, turning a set of resources into a output, right? But the mission then has to be designed to achieve the vision for the future, which is an emotional and motivational statement, right? Why do you create an organization? Because you want to create a positive change in society or something else. To achieve every mission, they will need to design every activity, right? And every activity must take into consideration a group of targets. So a set of targets altogether will give you the activities you need to achieve the mission of the organization, so in the future you can have a vision completed according to what you want to achieve in the future state of your organization. right? So you can see here that we are linking different kind of things from this very big idea for the long term with something much more specific, such as the mission, with something much more specific, such as activity, and then something much more specific as the target, right? We are going from the general idea of the organization for the long term, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, to the things we can do today so we can achieve that kind of big idea or that kind of big picture in the future, okay? And then every target must have specific goals, okay? So basically what we're talking about, the design of the organization in the planning process is this conceptual idea of a network of activities interconnected for specific situations in the organization that can allow us in the future to achieve a given vision. For instance, the vision is like the big goal that we have. Then we need to have the activities of the mission. And every activity of the mission will have some specific activities. And then which are going to be the targets. And then the targets will have a set of activities which are going to be the goals. Right? This is how you can achieve something. If you don't want to become, for instance, a top Olympian and you want to go to the Olympic Games, you cannot start by saying that you want to get the gold here. You need to have different kind of activities in different kind of time frames. So you're going to be able to get specific goals in different times and also with different kind of resources. Right? The more specific it's going to be, the better for you to take action about how you can achieve your vision in the long term. Vision, then the mission with a set of activities here, which is this part. Every target for every activity for the mission, and every goal for every target for every activity from the mission to achieve the vision in the long term. This is going to be the vision, the big picture of the organization. And then anyone else that is related to these kind of things. Right? If we're in the position of identifying which one of these concepts are for the long term and which one of these concepts are for the short term, which one of these will be in the long term, considering this structure: vision, mission, targets, and goals. I'm just describing the same concepts here. Which one of these will be for the long term, 10 years from now? The vision only, right? The vision will be the only one that will be a good guide, or a good guideline for the future. This clear idea of what you want to achieve in the next years. Question about what I just said. You have to let me know because I can see your faces. I see some of you that are lost completely. And remember, the only way for me to help you guys is to answer your questions in class, to answer your emails, if you write me something, or you ask for office hours, okay? Because I can see your faces. If you feel lost, you have to tell me no. I'm going to be asking you this in your midterm exam, in your final exam. Do you have any questions or no? Questions? Yes? Yeah? No? Are you sure? Yes? No questions? Okay, so you, also you. If the vision is for the long term, which one of these concepts are related to the short term? Yeah. You? Yes, you? Yeah. Again, do you want me to repeat the question? Okay, so if the vision is something that we define for the long term, then which concepts here are related to the short term, the daily activities, the weekly activities in my organization?
You could start from like goals and then going that way. It's like let's say you said like daily goals. Like your daily goals like help you accomplish like your targets, and then your targets help you accomplish your mission, and then your mission helps you accomplish.
So which one of them are short terms?
The three last ones.
the dream, right? From the mission, targets, and goals, because all those are going to be related. If you miss a daily goal, it is going to be really difficult to achieve your targets, and then the vision is going to be also very difficult for your organization. Okay? Everything must be linked and connected. Think of it as a network of resources interconnected in a conceptual way, because you are talking about the first two functions, which are what? These two functions are what? Static, right? You're going to be working with this idea, with this concept in your desk. Okay? So, then we have that this activity, since it's part of the first function of the managerial cycle, represents a continuous activity, right? You define your daily goals, and then you check how well you are doing every day. You define your monthly goals, etc., and then you have to check every period of time in relation to how well you are doing. Comparing what? The input that you have for that specific term against the output that you are producing, right? Because of this, this will be a continuous activity that mainly represents an intellectual process. This is one of the most important parts of your conceptual skills as manager. The higher the position of the manager, the most important are the conceptual skills, right? So you can have a clear idea about how you can use this kind of resources for the long term. These characteristics, and also this will be fundamental for your decision-making process. You need to know what you want to expect for your organization in a realistic way, given the resources you have at your disposal. Okay? So, questions about this? Good? Okay. So let's go for the relevance and importance of planning as the first managerial functions. Everything comes from here. Here you will define what kind of things you want to achieve using the resources that you have at your disposal, right? So you can compare in the controlling function how well you did in that specific moment of time, right? So first of all, we know that planning focuses on goals, because those are the things that we can do today. And we know those are important because those are going to be linked to the vision in the long term. As we mentioned previously, this is a network of concepts functioning properly. Right? The second part is that it will give you the possibility of minimize uncertainty, giving a real idea about what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and why you need to use the resources that you are asking, right? For you to be able to produce something of value for the market as well as for the internal stakeholders of the organization. And because of this will provide you the possibility and the tools to maintain a effective control, right? Why? We mentioned this previously. How we know that we are actually having an effective control of our resources, given the information we are developing in the planning process. How we can maintain an effective control? Comparing the actual output, right? So expected output will be defined in the planning process, and then in the controlling process, you will find whether or not you are making the right results according to what you already expect. So these three are already part of what we just explained in the planning process, right? Basically, this network of nodes and links tell us how every activity are linked to the vision in the long term. If we don't perform that activity today, maybe our vision will be compromised. Okay? Now, the next three steps are relevant. So I strongly recommend for you to take notes about those, because innovation, organizational effectiveness, and economy and operation are essential concepts of principles of management. And we're going to be talking about these concepts in the chapter number 5 or 6. Right? The first thing that we are finding here is that planning is relevant for the organization to be engaged in process of innovation, right? So we're going to be using a specific concept for innovation in this class. Just use that. Don't use any other. The only one that is going to be useful for this class is the one that we're going to be studying in a moment. Okay? Don't use any other one. Just this one. This concept of innovation comes from the Oslo Manual, which is a respected guideline to understand what is actual innovation, right? So this will come from here. This is already validated by tons of institutions and use it as an important guideline for us to know what is actual innovation and what is not. Okay? So before we go into the concept of innovation, we're going to be talking about the concept of the path of innovation, the path of innovation. So the path of innovation starts with an idea. It is important for our team in our organization to value the ideas that we are getting for our employees or our collaborators, right? We can have many ideas. If the idea is really creative or is really is new, is creative, is refreshing, then we have creativity. The idea is original, so we have creativity about how we can use our resources in a better way, or how we can introduce different kind of features of our already existing product, right? If the idea is new and original, then we have creativity. Then if we do something about it, meaning we produce something or we design something, then we have invention, right? So if we produce something, that could be a new product or services, right? We have invention. And only after we successfully introduce this invention into the market, we're talking about a successful introduction into the market, then we have innovation. Only here. If the invention is not being introduced into the market or in the industry and doesn't contribute to positive results for the organization, then it's not innovation. It's just an invention, right? It has to be successfully introduced into the market or into the industry to represent an innovation, right? Questions about this? The final part or from the idea?
Yeah, the final part.
Okay. So we have creativity. If we use our creativity to produce something, that could be, let's put here, goods or services. We have creativity is an original idea of producing a new product or a new table with new features, right? If we produce something, we have the invention, but only after we successfully introduce this invention into the market or into the industry, then we have innovation. If we don't introduce that successfully into the market or into the industry, that is not innovation, that is just innovation. Yeah. Successful introduction. I'm gonna go over that. Okay. Any other question? No? So far so good? Well, actually I'm gonna answer that question by asking you a question. If we're talking about a successful introduction into the market and the industry, right, of this new invention, how do we know, at least using the internal measurement logic, that this invention contributes to the success of my company? Help me to what? Yeah.
Generate profit.
Could be, but remember, we're talking about first, before facing the market, we're talking about the crucial indicators for the manager, an internal way. At least it has to help us to what? Right? To become more efficient, more effective, and more productive. At least it has to help you with that, right? Then we can talk about the market, okay? So this successful introduction needs to give me some specific results, such as increasing my productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. Okay? Then we can start talking about the result that we can have in the industry or the market. The result that we need to pay attention here is if this kind of invention, after being introduced into the market or in the industry, right, by my company can help me to what? Increase my market share, increase my market power, and reduce my cost. These three will be related to increasing my profit, right? So this, this invention being introduced into the market or the industry has to help me, right, to be considered as an innovation, to increase my market share, to increase my market power, or to reduce my cost, having a direct impact in my level of profitability, right? That is the only way. It has to be subjected to measurement. Okay?
You said that it's only considered innovation if it's
Successfully introduce it into the market or in the industry. Okay? Question about this? No? So far, so good? Okay, so the concept of innovation, I'm going to be just writing innovation here. That takes into account all of these parts of innovation, right? Will be the following. As we talk about innovation as a successful introduction, right, to the market or my industry, right? Innovation as a successful introduction to the market, meaning my customers, or the industry, meaning the set of companies that are producing the same kind of value, right? Of one of these four things, or maybe all together, we're going to be having only 4 types of innovation. Okay? So, innovation as a successful introduction to the market and the industry. Yes? Questions about this? If you don't understand my letter, it's okay. I know that I write really bad. But you have to ask me, what does it say there? Right? Questions? Are you sure? Sure? No questions? Sure? Okay.
please.
Sorry.
I have a question. So, for example, if I create a product or a service, that product, what needs to have to really be an innovation? It's just a successful introduction to the market.
Yeah. The product has to increase your number of customers, for instance. Like, let's say that we are talking about 2 companies, such as Nike and Adidas. And Nike invested a lot of research in terms of creating a new shoe for people that like to run marathons. It's lighter, it's more resistant, it helps you with your, with your run, right? And because of that, they have much more customers in that specific market than Adidas in the next year. So we know that was an innovation. But let's say that Adidas try to do the same kind of things, they fail it, and they have some loss. That is not an innovation, it's just an innovation. So it depends on the results. Okay? So, again, we have here innovation as a successful introduction in the market or the industry, right? You know the difference about the market and the industry, right? The customers and the companies competing with you. Okay? Yes? In the industry, we find Nike and Adidas, Xbox and PlayStation, and I don't know, all of those. Cinepolis and Cinemex, this is the industry, right? Of one of these 4 things, we just will have 4 types of innovation. Okay? The first one is a classic one. Products, new products, or services. Right? You also can have an innovation in terms of a successful introduction of a new process or processes. You can also have a successful introduction of new marketing practices, like doing something that your competitors are not doing in terms of marketing practices, or organizational methods. Right? These are going to be the 4 types of innovation we're going to be working in principles of management. Okay? So, successful introduction in the market or the industry of new products or services, which is the classical way to understand innovation in many cases, but it's not the only one, right? New process, meaning the set of activities performed to turn an input into an output. That is a process, right? Yeah. The set of activities involved in turning an input into an output.
Can you see an example of process?
Yes. Okay, so everyone got this? Yes? Are you sure? My suggestion is to take notes. It will be really useful later. Okay, yeah. Organizational methods. Okay, I'm gonna go for the process in a moment. Okay? Let's say that we want to start a new coffee shop to compete with the Starbucks, just for saying something simple, right? What is the process of creating a cup of coffee? Number one is what? Boiling water. We're going to be doing something very simplistic here, okay? Water. Then choosing the scoop, the cup, right? Choosing cup. Then pouring the water. I'm just doing something very simple here, okay? Then put the coffee, right? And then mix all together. So it's a process, right? A set of activities turning an input into the final cup of coffee. Okay? Yes? And we can do this for any kind of activity that is productive, right? You have to start by checking what kind of resources do you have and what set of activities will help you to turn that kind of input into an output. That is a process. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of process?
Well, I was supposed to give this example. We are turning we're turning water and a cup and a grains of coffee into a final cup of coffee that we can sell. So the set of activities involved in turning an input into an output starts in the process of producing a cup of coffee by boiling water, then choosing the cup, then putting the hot water, then put the coffee, then you mix all together and you have a cup of coffee. That is just a process, set of activities to turn the water into a cup of coffee. Yeah? Or you can use it for producing I don't know, a cake or something like that. You have a set of resources and you create some activities to produce something. Right? Questions? Is this clear or not? You have to let me know. Yeah? How do you produce a sandwich? Let's say that we want to start a company to rivalize with Subway. So how would you produce a sandwich? Yeah. You, yourself, please.
Yeah, you've got bread.
Mhm.
Just put tomato, lettuce, mayo, and then you close the bread.
That is just a process, set of activities, right? This is just a specific introduction that will help us to understand innovation as a substitution of something new, right? But we have traditional processes to produce something, and if we can find a way to be for this process to be faster, more efficient, and more effective, leading us to increase my market share, my market power, or to reduce my cost, then we have an innovation because we know that this will help us to increase our level of profits. That is the only one to know, right? But on the other hand, we introduce a new process, a new set of activities that are not helping us at all. We don't have an innovation, just an invention, but it wasn't successful. It has to help us to increase my market share, market power, or reduce my cost for us to know if that is an actual innovation. Right? So the new products or services, good with new features, right? The process, a set of activities turning an input into an output, right? That are new, that help us to increase my market share, market power, or to reduce my cost, right? Haven't any one of you watched the movie The Founder, The History of Aircraft? Right? That is a very good example of an innovation in terms of process. Why? Because in that specific moment of time, ordering a hamburger and having the hamburger ready for you in a restaurant, whatever, took about 10 to 15 minutes or something like that. And then Ray Kroc goes to this McDonald's restaurant, a very small branch in that specific moment. He orders a hamburger, and he gets a hamburger in no time, like immediately. And he says, like, what are you doing? Right? So they show him the production process, which was much more related to a manufacturing company rather than a restaurant company. Faster, more efficient, allowing the organization to go from a hamburger place to a global chain, right? It's how important is the managerial concept. There is a very important differences between McDonald's and the place that sells hamburgers in the corner of your street. It's the conceptual skills to understand that specific production process as something that can be escalated into become something big. Okay? Even though the product is the same, but the process is much more different. Right? That process of McDonald's in that moment represents an innovation because it allows the company to increase their customers and reduce cost and reduce time. That's how we know. If the results of McDonald's were not so successful, that process will not represent an innovation, just an invention, just an idea put into practice. But we know how successful is this company with that specific process, among some other things. Right? Question about process? No? So see the set of activities. You have this set of activities to produce traditional coffee. If you think about an idea to improve these activities, allowing your company to increase your market share, market power, or reduce your cost, then you have an innovation. That's how we know. Right? It has to be linked directly with those results. For the marketing practices, okay, here we're not considering innovation when the manager finds new ways to have a better relationship with the customers. Finding new ways to have a better relationships with the customer. Right? Many companies are using what right now? Artificial intelligence, such as chatbots and some other things. Right? So they can define a specific level of service according to your specific needs, reducing at least the cost, because you're not talking with a person, you're talking with an algorithm. So you don't have to pay a wage there. You don't need to pay a salary, meaning that you're reducing your cost. And if you reduce your cost, you increase your profit. Right? So that is an innovation. And we know because that is the result. Right? And finally, the organizational methods are those methods focused on making your company more what? If we're talking about organizational methods, methods focused on making your company more efficient, effective, and productive, but taking into consideration the organizational structure. You will make some changes in the organizational structure to make your company better in productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness at least. Right? And this introduction must show you that you are making or you are having better results here. Market share, market power, and to reduce your cost. If you cannot measure the effect of that introduction, then it's not an innovation. It's just an invention. That's it. Okay? Questions about this?
What was the last step? Organizational what?
Methods. Organizational methods. Yeah.
And before that one,
Marketing practices. Marketing practices. Right? Any other questions about these concepts?
And quickly, can you just repeat what was organizational methods?
Yeah, the last one is organizational methods.
No, can you just explain it real quick?
The methods you introduce in your organizational structure to be more productive, efficient, and effective.
Oh.
Okay? Any other question? Now, this is I introduced here something very interesting also for you to take into consideration. I know that there is a concept that you don't understand because we haven't studied in class. So you must have that question specifically. Which one is it? Yes. What is the concept that is here that I haven't studied in class?
Sorry?
manual.
Well, the manual is not a concept. This is just a guideline. So it's just this is a document. So it's not a concept. Which one is it? The ones that are yawing or going to the bathroom. There is at least one concept. I know that there are more than one, but at least that one concept here I haven't explained, and I know that you don't get it. No, well, I introduced that in the first class. Well, just tell me the right answer, because all of these are explained except for one. Which one is it? Well, the market share is the number of customers you have. Reducing costs, if you're reducing your costs, it's very simple. But what is market power? What is market power? I didn't introduce that. So did you have that question or no?
Is it the influence that a company has? Or?
Well, I just want to provide the concept, but that is very likely. Okay? So be very careful about the things that I'm including here. I'm going to be asking you these questions in your final exam, your internal exam, your presentation. If you don't get it, you have to let me know. I know that you're not asking the questions for you to get the best out of this course, but that is your responsibility. Okay? So, what is market power? Market power will represent the ability of the company to impose conditions. It could be, but we're going to get there. So, the ability of the company to impose conditions on the customers without losing market. Okay? The ability of the company to impose conditions on the customers without losing market. Okay? Yeah. Okay, we're not talking about that now. Yes? Okay, so you got the concept, right? If the company is able to raise the price to create a set of requirements for the customers, or just specifically to ask for the customer for specific things without losing the customer, then we know that you have market power. Right? If you can raise the price without losing customers, if you can impose some requirements or procedures to your customers without losing your market, we know that we have market power. For instance, if you want to go to buy some things in Sam's Club, the company says, if you want to have that privilege to buy in my company, to spend your money in my organization, you have to pay for a membership. And that is market power. Aurora is not going to be able to do that. They don't have market power, right? But Sam's they can, because of the products they have, the brands they're using, and many other things, right? But they are actually charging you for the right to buy their products, and still they have a lot of people who are paying for that specific membership and that product, right? Some other luxury companies, they put you in a waiting list. You want to buy a Ferrari, they have to check your financial results, your financial records, right? Before they allow you to buy that kind of product, okay? And etc. We can find many of them, okay? If the company has the ability to impose you some conditions, prices, requirements, procedures, memberships, or whatever, they have market power. If they're not able to do that, they don't have market power, right? We're going to be talking about market power in the chapter focused on strategy, chapter number 6. You have it clear, you have to let me know, because this is directly related to a competitive position, okay? But remember, every concept in class is going to be linked for the next classes. And at the end of the course, I'm going to be asking you about these things, right? Okay, so any question about the path of innovation? You just have to use it like this. This logic and these 4 types of innovation. No other one. Right? If you use another one, that will be wrong. Okay? At least for this class. And the reason why is because everything is going to be linked and connected. So I'm going to be linking the ideas on competitiveness, profitability, strategy to those concepts, actually, in the next class. So this is the way to understand it. Okay? Now let's go for the next part that says organizational effectiveness. Okay, so we don't know, we don't have any questions, right? Continue? Okay. So effectiveness is a quantitative measurement comparing your expected output against your actual output. But if we're talking about organizational effectiveness, right, we also need to take into consideration what kind of resources we need to produce something, right? And if we effectively and efficiently use those resources to have a specific output, right? So we have expected output compared to actual output, right? But if we want to turn our attention to the resources we need to produce something, then what kind of measurements we need to take into consideration in my production process? How well we're using our resources. Remember, we have our formula here, right? We have the units we produce and also the resources we need to produce, right? And here we have what kind of resources? We have what? Tangible and intangible, right? And here we have buildings and machinery and things, and here creativity, etc. Okay? If we want to know how well we're using our resources to maintain an organization in an effective way, what will be the two measurements we need to pay attention to? This is for effectiveness, and in relation to the right use of our resources, what will be the two measurements we need to pay attention to? Well, output is already here, so forget about output. No, but follow this. What kind of input do we have in the organization? Those are resources, but input in relation to compared, we can have expected input compared to the actual input, right? What is the logic of this idea? If you have a given installed capacity in your organization to produce 100 units, and you are using that specific level of resources to produce effectively 100 units, then you are using your inputs in the right way, right? But if for some reason in your production process you have a certain level of waste, like in energy, in talent, in raw materials, or whatever, then the actual input will be different from the expected. This is what kind of things you need to produce something and how you're going to be using your resources in that production process, right? We need to pay attention then not only to what we're producing, but also how well we are using the resources we have in our organization. Okay? Questions about this? This one is for the production process, the results, the outcome. And this one, what you need to produce. Why is it so important for us to take into account the input? Because in the organizational design that you create for your company, you will be in charge of using your resources in the best possible way. So not just the outcome, not just the results, but also how well you are using these kind of things, right? And for us to be able to make the best possible use of the input, then we need the principles of management, theories, ideas, and concepts. So we can coordinate effectively my organization. Right? Question about this?
Would you say the expected input and actual input has to do, it's related with what?
With your decision-making process in the organizational design. Okay? The organizational design will be described in the organizational chart that is part of the organization managerial function, the next one. We're just talking about the planning function. Okay? The next one is, we're going to be studying today the whole slide. Okay? But we're about to finish this one. Right? So innovation we know, organizational effectiveness we already know, and the economy in operation refers to maintaining your organization producing with a certain level of efficiency. Basically that, right? Economy in operation is basically try to avoid having any kind of waste in your company. For it, may I erase this? Yeah, that's good. You have your notes. Those are going to be essential for you to get access to the knowledge that we're trying to create here. For economy, yeah, for economy and operation, okay? The economy and operation, we are going to produce the concept of quality, right? For quality, we're going to be using two dimensions of quality. The first one, quality, will be from the consumer perspective. And the next one is going to be from the producer perspective. So we have the consumer perspective and also we have the consumer perspective. Right? From the consumer perspective, this will be something that is a perception from the consumer that comes from the values and idea. And basically, if you remember your classes of microeconomics, the quality from the consumer perception will be focused basically on how much consumer surplus you are creating. How high is the level of willingness to pay from your customer? Remember that supply and demand chart, we have the willingness to pay, right? And also as managers, you need to use this information to make the right decisions. This is why management concentrates all of the concepts that you are learning in these classes. Statistics, sociology, psychology, everything is going to be concentrated on management, right? So this was basically would be consumer surplus. That means something very specific and different for everyone. My understanding of my consumer surplus of this table is very different from you guys. So maybe I'm going to be willing to pay, I don't know, X quantity of money for this one. Maybe none of you are going to be willing to pay nothing for this one because the value is subjective, right? So this is why we need to understand the economic and non-economic needs of our customers. The economic needs, a ratio of price and quantity. Non-economic comes from taste and culture and ideas, etc. Right? But from the producer's perspective, this is going to be objective and also, most importantly, quantitative. It will be basically a quantitative method for us to know if we're producing with quality, right? From the producer's perspective, which is our case, we don't have any subjectivity. Everything must be objective, right? And this quantitative approach for the concept of quality from the producer will come from these two dimensions. First one, producing with no waste. Producing with no waste. And the second one, producing without control variability. So we have these quantitative measurements that tell us if we are using our resources properly by producing with no waste in our production process, right? And the control variability would be an statistical measurement. You remember your class of statistics, right? Descriptive the statistics takes into consideration what? The mean, the variance, etc. So for control variability, we're going to be taking into account the average and the standard deviation. Right? It's going to be a quantitative approach. But don't worry about it. I have prepared an exercise with a virtual reality tool to use this concept again. You can remember this. So you can use it. You're going to love it. You're going to be in charge of a virtual production process, creating a product that has quantitative measurements. You have to calculate for you to know if you are producing with what. You're going to love it.